We find ourselves here in a foreign country, convicted under laws made by people whom we have always considered as foreigners. We find ourselves tried by a judge who is not our countryman and who has not shared our background. We are Namibians and not South Africans. We do not now, and will not in the future, recognize your right to govern us, to make laws for us in which we have no say, to treat our country as if it were your property and us as if you were our masters. We are far away from our homes. Not a single member of our families has come to visit us, never mind be present at our trial. The South African government has again shown its strength by detaining us for as long as it pleased, keeping some of us in solitary confinement for 300 to 400 days and bringing us to its capital to try us. It has shown its strength by passing an act especially for us and having it made retrospective. It has even chosen an ugly name to call us by. One's own are called patriots, or at least rebels. Your opponents are called terrorists. We know that whites do not think of blacks as politicians, only as agitators. Many of our people, through no fault of their own, have had no education at all. This does not mean that they do not know what they want. Our grievances are called so-called grievances. We do not believe South Africa is in Southwest Africa in order to provide facilities and work for non-whites. It is there for its own selfish reasons. For the first 40 years, it did practically nothing to fulfill its sacred trust. It only concerned itself with the welfare of the whites. Since 1962, because of the pressure from inside by the non-whites, and especially my organization, and because of the limelight placed on our country by the world, South Africa has been trying to do a bit more. It rushed the Bantustan report so that it would at least have something to say at the World Court. Only one who is not white and has suffered the way we have can say whether our grievances are real or so-called. Those of us who have some education, together with our uneducated brethren, have always struggled to get freedom. Your government, my lord, undertook a very special responsibility when it was awarded the mandate over us after the First World War. It assumed a sacred trust to guide us towards independence and to prepare us to take our place among the nations of the world. We believe that South Africa has abused that trust because of its belief in racial supremacy, that white people have been chosen by God to rule the world, and apartheid. We believe that for 50 years South Africa had failed to promote the development of our people. Where are our trained men? The wealth of our country has been used to train your people for leadership, and the sacred duty of preparing the indigenous people to take their place among the nations of the world has been ignored. I don't claim that it is easy for men of different races to live at peace with one another. I myself had no experience of this in my youth, and at first it surprised me that men of different races could live together in peace. But now I know it to be true and to be something to which we must strive. The South African government creates hostility by separating people and emphasizing their differences. We believe that by living together, people will learn to lose their fear of each other. We also believe that this fear which some of the whites have of Africans is based on their desire to be superior and privileged, and that when whites see themselves as part of Southwest Africa, sharing with us all its hopes and troubles, then that fear will disappear. Separation is said to be a natural process, but why then is it imposed by force, and why then is it the whites have the superiority? I have come to know that our people cannot expect progress as a gift from anyone, be it the United Nations or South Africa. Progress is something we shall have to struggle and work for, and I believe that the only way in which we shall be able and fit to secure that progress is to learn from our own experience and mistakes. Your lordship emphasized in your judgment the fact that our arms came from communist countries, and also that words commonly used by communists were to be found in our documents. But my lord, in the documents produced by the state, there is another type of language. It appears even more often than the former. Many documents finish up with an appeal to the Almighty to guide us in our struggle for freedom. It is the wish of the South African government that we should be discredited in the Western world. That is why it calls our struggle a communist plot, but this will not be believed by the world. The world knows that we are not interested in ideologies. We feel that the world as a whole has a special responsibility towards us. This is because the land of our fathers was handed over to South Africa by a world body. It is a divided world, but it is a matter of hope for us that it at least agrees about one thing, that we are entitled to freedom and justice. Other mandated territories have received their freedom. The judgment of the World Court was a bitter disappointment to us. We felt betrayed, and we believed that South Africa would never fulfill its trust. Some felt that we would secure our freedom only by fighting for it. We knew that the power of South Africa is overwhelming, but we also knew that our case is a just one and our situation intolerable. Why should we not receive our freedom? We are sure that the world's efforts to help us in our plight will continue, whatever South Africans may call us. We do not expect that independence will end our troubles, but we do believe that our people are entitled, as are all peoples, to rule themselves. It is not really a question whether South Africa treats us well or badly, but that Southwest Africa is our country and we wish to be our own masters. There are some who will say that they are sympathetic with our aims, but that they condemn violence. I would answer that I am not by nature a man of violence, and I believe that violence is a sin against God and my fellow men. SWAPO itself was a non-violent organization, but the South African government is not truly interested in whether opposition is violent or non-violent. It does not wish to hear any opposition to apartheid. Is it surprising that in such times my countrymen have taken up arms? Violence is truly fearsome, but who would not defend his property and himself against a robber? And we believe that South Africa has robbed us of our country. I have spent my life working in SWAPO, which is an ordinary political party like any other. My lord, you found it necessary to brand me as a coward during the Second World War, when it became evident that both my country and your country were threatened by the dark clouds of Nazism. I risked my life to defend both of them, wearing a uniform with orange bands on it. But some of your countrymen, when called to battle to defend civilization, resorted to sabotage against their own fatherland. I volunteered to face German bullets, and as a guard of military installations, both in Southwest Africa and the Republic, was prepared to be the victim of their sabotage. Today, they are our masters and are considered the heroes, and I am called the coward. When I consider my country, I am proud that my countrymen have taken up arms for their people, and I believe that anyone who calls himself a man would not despise them. I had no answer to the question, where has your non-violence got us? Whilst the World Court judgment was pending, I at least had that to fall back on. When we failed, after years of waiting, I had no answer to give to my people. Even though I did not agree that people should go into the bush, I could not refuse to help them when I knew that they were hungry. I even passed on the request for dynamite. It was not an easy decision. Another man might have been able to say, I will have nothing to do with that sort of thing. I was not, and I could not remain a spectator in the struggle of my people for their freedom. I am a loyal Namibian, and I could not betray my people to their enemies. I admit that I decided to assist those who had taken up arms. I know that the struggle will be long and bitter. I also know that my people will wage that struggle, whatever the cost. Only when we are granted our independence will the struggle stop. Only when our human dignity is restored to us as equals of the whites will there be peace between us. My co-accused and I have suffered. We are not looking forward to our imprisonment. We do not, however, feel that our efforts and sacrifice have been wasted. We believe that human suffering has its effect even on those who impose it. We hope that what has happened will persuade the whites of South Africa that we and the world may be right and they may be wrong. Only when white South Africans realize this and act on it will it be possible for us to stop our struggle for freedom and justice in the land of our birth. Herman Andimba Toivo was born in 1924 in Omangudu in northern Namibia. He received primary school education from the Finnish Lutheran mission. Toivo means hope in Finnish. During World War II, Toivo was a soldier with the South African Native Military Corps. He then attended the Anglican St. Mary's Odibo school, where he qualified and worked as a teacher. In 1951, Toivo moved to Cape Town. In the Cape, he became involved with South African anti-apartheid organizations, including the African National Congress and left-wing student movements. In 1957, he formed the Ovamboland People's Congress, forerunner of the Namibian Liberation Organization, Southwest Africa. People's Organization, or SWAPO. Because of his activism, he was deported to Namibia, where he continued his anti-apartheid Namibian nationalist politics. In 1966, Toivo was arrested by the South African authorities. The following year, the State v. Tuhadeleni and 36 others trial opened in Pretoria. Toivo appeared as accused number 21. The trial was the first under South Africa's Terrorism Act of 21st June 1967. With a powerful speech from the dock, Toivo drew international attention to the Namibian liberation struggle. He is best remembered internationally for his statement that Namibians were not South Africans and that they should not be tried by South Africans under foreign law. Sentenced to 20 years in prison, he spent 16 years on Robben Island, where he became close to Mandela. In 1984, he was released and joined SWAPO in exile. After Namibian independence in 1990, Toivo served in the SWAPO government in various portfolios.